divine grace. Hey, Sri Bhaktivinoda Goswami Maharaj, Sri Prabhupada, Shri Raghuram Krishna Giraj, Shri Dhoni Kai, Jai Go, Oh, glory, oh, glory, Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Garuda Govinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Garuda Govinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Garuda Govinda Today's appearance, the auspicious appearance day of Advaita Acharya. Srila Advaita Acharya Prabhu Ki Jai. You know, from our Vedic literature, we get a complete understanding of how the Lord creates this material world. We see, you know, in circles of science and cosmology, you know, there's so many different theories and so many different ideas, but I think. But generally, people have very vague understanding about what's really going on with this creation. But from our Vedic literatures, we get this complete understanding of how the Lord creates this world, how he first expands himself as Lord Balaram, and how Lord Balaram expands himself into the four quadruple expansions, Vasudeva, Aniruddha, Pradyumna, Shankarshan, and from Shankarshan, he further expands himself into Mahavishnu. And it's this Mahavishnu expansion of the Lord who is said to be the original source of this material creation. You know, we hear this in the Vedas. It explains how he lies down in the causal ocean and just from his perspiration, I mean, he is so gigantic in size, this Mahavishnu, that he lies down in this causal ocean just from the breathing, from the pores of his skin. Millions of, you know, he exhales, you know, when he's breathing. Uncountable, innumerable universes just emanate from the pores of his transcendental body, like it is said, like bubbles floating in the causal ocean. Then he enters into, you know, because, you know, people they have in the scientific world they have a lot of trouble trying to comprehend such things as this revealed from the Vedic. So it's this gigantic form of Mahavishnu lying in the causal ocean, all these universes just coming out from the pores of his transcendental body. Of course, then it's described, he enters into each universe as the Garbhadakshay Vishnu who lies down in the Garbha ocean, and of course from his navel the transcendental lotus flower grows, and on top of that lotus flower Lord Brahma, who is born, who was specifically empowered to engineer the structure of the different material creations. And then he glances, it's very amazing, he glances at each universe, and when he glances, he impregnates all us jiva souls, and we take birth according to our karma, according to the last creation, which means that if all the jiva souls at the time of annihilation, it is said that they all go into like a a sleep, a suspended animation. The whole ingredients of material creation is just, it becomes unmanifested, and then all the jivas, they go into this mahatattva, which is like a little cloud in one corner of the spiritual sky, and they just remain there in like a deep kind of sleep, suspended animation until the time of the next creation. And according to their karma from the previous creation, when the Lord glances at the universe, he impregnates all those souls into the womb of the material nature, and they take birth according to their karma from the previous creation. Very interesting. So in this sense, it is said the earth is like our mother, and Mahavishnu is like our seed-giving father. So today we're honouring that personality who created this entire cosmic manifestation, our original seed-giving father. And that also, it's that transcendental personality who inspired Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to descend. Sri Advaita Acharya Prabhu, he is the supreme personality of Godhead, Mahavishnu himself. So, Krishna, he instructed Advaita Acharya to appear in the district of Nadia, here on earth. And why did he instruct him to appear here on earth? Because he was one of the instigators to assist him in spreading his Sankirtan movement to save all the fallen souls of Kali Yuga. So, Advaita Acharya, he appeared approximately 500 years ago, but actually, he appeared 70 years before Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And actually, it is said that the first words that came out of his mouth after his birth was Sri Krishna Chaitanya. So, there's not much information about his early childhood, but we hear that from a very early age, it was noted that he was a Shrutidara. When he was performing his earthly pastimes as a human-like personality, he had this, a photographic memory, Shrutidara. You could just hear something once, remember it. And at the age of 5 years, he mastered the entire Sanskrit alphabet. And even at a very young age, he became a very famous scholar. When he was 7 years old, after receiving the Brahman thread, there's one story actually, just after he received his Brahman thread, he was taken by his father to a Kali Puja festival. In India we see, especially in Bengal, these Kali Puja festivals. However, when he arrived, everyone offered their obeisances to the deity of Kali, but he didn't offer his obeisances. And actually the king was there, and he just noted that this young Advaita, he didn't offer his obeisances to Kali. And he came up and he questioned him, why aren't you offering your obeisances to Kali? And the young Advaita, he was just a young boy, 7 years old, he replied, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is my worshipable Lord. People should simply fix their mind on the one worshipable Lord and not become bewildered by so many philosophies, worshipping so many different demigods and this personality and that personality. And of course, his father was very embarrassed, the king, of all people, questioning his son. And the father began debating with him. And it said it was a heated argument took place in the assembly of all the people in the temple there. And Advaita was just insisting that one should simply worship Narayan Krishna rather than worship all the gods such as the demigods. And if one simply worships Krishna, automatically all such demigods and goddesses and worship of them is complete. No need to worship all the different gods and demigods. Just worship Krishna and then your worship is complete. But after this heated debate, the young Advaita, he stopped speaking out of respect for his dear father. And he just bowed down to the Kali deity. But then it is said that to everyone's amazement and surprise, the deity of Kali began to just break up into pieces. And it was concluded that she was just embarrassed that her master had bowed down before her. Advaita Acharya, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So at the age of 12 years, he performed his pastimes as a human being. He began studying various Vedic literatures and branches of Vedic knowledge, and under this special Brahmana teacher. There was one pastime when he was a young boy, actually. Wonderful. It just happened one day. There was this wonderful incident took place. Advaita's teacher took all the students to the bank of the Ganga to bathe. And next to the Ganga was this large lake. And on that lake there was many thorny plants, very thorny plants. And also this lake, there was all these poisonous large black snakes crawling around. Very dangerous place. So in the middle of this lake, there was this beautiful lotus flower. And it's said that this lotus flower its fragrance just spread in all directions. So the learned Brahmana teacher, he said to his students, "Who is able to pick the lotus flower?" And the students all said, "It's impossible. It's impossible. There's no way we can get it. There's so many thorny bushes and these dangerous big black snakes. There's no way we can get the lotus flower." However, after some time, Advaita replied, "I'm not afraid to get the lotus flower." He said, "If you order me, I will get it." The Brahmana teacher said, "There are many thorns there and many dangerous snakes. Don't vainly boast that you can do it if you can't do it." So hearing this, Advaita, he just slightly smiled. And then he ran across the lake, stepping from one lotus flower to another. He picked up that fragrant lotus flower in the middle of the lake and returned, and he offered it to his teacher. So seeing this magical feat, the teachers and students, they were struck with wonder. And then they asked, "How did you do this most superhuman feat? Running across these lotus flowers?" And Advaita, he replied, "If someone dedicates his life to the devotional service of the Supreme Lord Krishna, all 8 yogic perfections come under his control." So they could understand at this time that Advaita, he wasn't just a normal person. He wasn't just a normal student. He was a very special personality. So after his dear parents, returned to the spiritual world, he went on this famous pilgrimage. He went to Jagannath Puri, where he became overwhelmed with ecstasy. He travelled to South India. He visited all the holy places of South India and temples. And it said just the waves of the ocean of love were just overflowing. He was just exhibiting all these ecstatic symptoms. And of course he went to a dupi and he met the famous Saint Madhavendra Puri. So he revealed his heart to Madhavendra Puri. He said he was telling Madhavendra Puri that I'm very concerned. I'm concerned for the fallen people of this Kali Yuga. What's going to happen to them? How are they going to be delivered? Then Madhavendra Puri, he showed him Advaita, a reference in the Ananta Samhita, a very ancient Vedic literature. And the verse read that the son of Nanda Maharaj, Krishna, who is full of 6 opulences, will appear in Navadvip as Lord Gauranga, and he will deliver the entire world by giving people love of Godhead through chanting his holy name. So hearing this, Advaita went into complete ecstasy, and he got up and he started chanting, Gauranga, 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 Gauranga. And for many hours he was just chanting this, Gauranga, Gauranga, Gauranga. And then he made the vow, I will bring Krishna down to this world. And then we read in the Chaitanya Charitamrita how he intensely worshipped his shalagram Shiva. You know, he fasted, he prayed, he cried, appealing to the Lord in great anxiety. And he was always thinking, when will Gauranga appear so that my mind and body will find some peace and satisfaction? So he was in this incredible anxiety. When will Lord Chaitanya appear? And like I said, he was just worshipping his shalagram, he was fasting, praying, crying, appealing to the Lord. And this wasn't just a short event. This anxiety, intense anxiety for Lord Gauranga to appear, went on for 52 years. Can you imagine? Meanwhile, in anticipation of Gauranga's appearance, he opened a school in Navadvip. And at that time, you know, Navadvip was a center of learning for philosophy. All the great pundits and philosophers and Brahmins from all over India would come to Navadvip. And this was the place where they would sit and discuss philosophy, and the students would come and the teachers would come. So he opened his school there, and then soon, you know, so many respectable scholars came and accepted him as their leader and teacher. So after some time, Advaita, he started seeing many auspicious signs. And he could feel within his heart that actually Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had descended. And Advaita, when he could understand this, he was just immersed in pure love and devotion. And then he came to the house to get the darshan of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And when he came there, he simply offered his obeisances and he prayed to Lord Chaitanya. Oh my Lord, this servant of yours has been anxiously waiting for you for the last 52 years. Now my long cherished desire is fulfilled. Because Lord Chaitanya, he just smiled brightly and he said, I am controlled by my devotees' love. My appearance is only by their desire. So in this sense we see that Lord Chaitanya is almost addressing Advaita as his devotee. So we should always remember this mood, because, Lord Krishna, Sri Krishna and Lord Chaitanya, who is a direct incarnation of is Krishna himself, they are the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. They're the original fountainhead of all expansions, of all incarnations. Even Balaram, the first expansion of Krishna, Narayan, Vishnu, Advaita, Matsya, Raha, Nrsimhadev, Lord Ram. They've all expanded from the original fountainhead of all expansions, which is Krishna, or Lord Chaitanya. And thus, amongst these incarnations, we find this mood of servitude, which is manifest like in the form of Advaita Acharya. And we see Lord Balaram, he used to serve Krishna in so many different ways. Lord Nityananda. So, because, Krishna, they say Krishna, he's the fountainhead of all these incarnations. And therefore, they are said to be the servitor Godheads. They are the expansion of the Supreme Lord, but they have this mood of servitude, acknowledging that Krishna, or Lord Chaitanya, is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. One day, by Lord Chaitanya's mercy, Advaita saw in a spiritual vision that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appear in his original form of Sri Krishna. And he was just overwhelmed with ecstatic love. And he was just filled with so much happiness and bliss. And he began to glorify Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with so many prayers while he was massaging his lotus feet with fine oils. So Advaita, in this mood of servitude, he was just bathing Lord Chaitanya's lotus feet, offering puja and arti to him. And then it is said Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he lifted his lotus feet up and he placed them on Advaita Acharya's head. And all the devotees present were chanting the holy name in ecstasy. Then Lord Chaitanya, there's a story in that Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya asked Advaita, please chant the holy name and dance. And it is said that Advaita, happily, he got up and he began dancing. So, for the pleasure of the Lord, he was dancing so gracefully and so with so much love in his heart. With such divine humility, he was just dancing and chanting. And all the devotees were just, this whole transcendental scene of Advaita Acharya dancing and chanting for the pleasure of their Lord. They were struck with wonder. And Advaita then, after this chanting and dancing for some time, he sat at the feet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then the Lord said, "Oh, Advaita, please ask me for a boon. I will fulfill any desire you have. Any desire." Advaita Acharya, he looked up at Lord Chaitanya and he said, "My Lord, all my desires are fulfilled today. You allowed me to dance for you, and you have appeared in this most beautiful golden form and given me your darshan. Oh, All my desires are fulfilled. However, Lord Chaitanya insisted, please, Advaita, ask for one boon. Just ask for one boon. Advaita said, all right, you have come to deliver the most unfortunate souls by your Premanam Sankirtan, the chanting which gives prema, love for Krishna. My desire is that the most sinful, lowest, wretched souls of this world receive love of God by your mercy. Let your holy name be resounding everywhere for the deliverance of not just your devotees, but everyone, even the most fallen, wretched souls. So Lord Chaitanya replied, on the basis of your request, all living beings in this age of Kali Yuga will have the opportunity for the highest liberation, Krishna Prem, pure love for Krishna. So ultimately, in his pastimes, everything that Advaita Acharya Prabhu did was simply to reveal to the world the glories of the holy name of Krishna, to induce the fallen conditioned souls to chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra and take shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because he is actually non-different from the Supreme Lord, he is called Advaita. And because he propagates the cult of devotion, he's called Acharya, one who teaches by example. So he is the Lord and the incarnation of the Lord, appearing as a devotee of the Lord. He is the servitor of Godhead. So whenever the Lord personally descends in his human-like form, we see this in his different incarnations. He sends ahead all his devotees who act as his mother, his father, his teacher, his guru, his servant, his friend, and many other transcendental associates who act in so many different roles. So prior to the Lord's appearance, we see this. Advaita Acharya came, Jagannath Mishra, Sachi Mata, Madhavendra Puri, Ishvara Puri, spiritual master. They all came to prepare for Lord Chaitanya's advent. So the glories of Advaita Acharya and his attributes are just unlimited and inconceivable. It is said that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he spreads his Sankirtan movement and delivers the world through his principal limbs, such as Advaita Acharya and Lord Nityananda. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita we read about how before moving to Jagannath Puri, Lord Chaitanya, he came and he stayed at Advaita Acharya's house in Sandipur. And many devotees came to get the Lord's association there. And every evening, Advaita began this wonderful kirtan that went for many, many hours, and all the devotees, and Lord Chaitanya, followed by Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur, and all the assembled devotees that were just chanting and dancing ecstatically in the house of Advaita for many, many hours into the night. And of course, during that time, it is said, while Advaita Acharya when he was dancing, sometimes he would turn around, he would catch the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he would say to him in a very playful way, For many days you escaped me by bluffing, but now I have you in my home. I will keep you bound up here forever. So this wonderful festival in Advaita Acharya's house went continuously for 10 days. And there was big feasting and chanting. And it is said that in this way the opulences of Advaita Acharya, his faith, his devotion, his home, his riches, everything else was successfully utilized in the worship of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was setting the example of the ideal householder, you could say. How he was dovetailing his whole household in the service of the Lord, in devotional service, bhakti yoga, for the pleasure of the Lord. So in this way we see in Advaita's house is a very nice description in the Chaitanya Charitamrita how all the devotees met and passed days together in the association of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this wonderful festive mood. However, soon after, when everything was arranged, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was getting ready to set out for Jagannath Puri. And when Advaita, in the house of Advaita Acharya, when they heard that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was leaving Navadvip and moving to Jagannath Puri, there was just arose this tumultuous crying out of just this anticipating this mood and feelings of intense separation from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And it was a very sad kind of pastime, because Advaita, when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was heading towards Jagannath, when he left Navadvip, Advaita Acharya, he was actually following Lord Chaitanya, and he was weeping. He was just weeping in this mood of intense separation. But after some time, he didn't want to return home. He wanted to go with Lord Chaitanya to Jagannath Puri. But the Lord turned round and he said to him, he was going to send him back. And he said to him, please pacify all the devotees in Navadvip, because they're all feeling this intense separation, and pacify my mother. And then he embraced Advaita Acharya. Then he sent him back, and he proceeded on to Jagannath Puri. So after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu departed from this world, it is said that Advaita Acharya, he was just experiencing just so much intense separation. It is said just to see him, one's heart would melt. Just on seeing his condition, he would not eat, he would not drink for many, many days on end. Sometimes he would just be loudly crying out, "Oh Gauranga, where are you?" His only happiness or solace was simply chanting and remembering the names of Gauranga. At this time, he was like 125 years old at this time. Then one day Advaita, he told one of his dear servant disciples and friend, actually I cannot tolerate this separation from Gauranga. I will soon depart from this world and go and rejoin Lord Chaitanya. Then he told his servant, now please inform Gauranga's dear devotees about my desire. Bring them here. soon after, all the devotees began assembling, and Advaita addressed them all. He said, "You are very dear to me. Please carry out this one instruction. My desire is that you all preach the glories of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's qualities and teachings. Now all of you chant the names of Gauranga." And then there's this big ecstatic kirtan going on. It is said gradually the waves of the ocean of Sankirtan began to expand. And Advaita Acharya began dancing and chanting, and he began manifesting all these ecstatic symptoms of love of God. You know, shedding torrents of tears of love. And he was calling out, "Where is Gauranga? Where is Gauranga, my life and soul?" And suddenly he exclaimed, "I found Gauranga! I found Gauranga!" All these hairs on his body stood on end. And then suddenly he just ran to the temple of Madan Gopal. And after entering that temple, he disappeared from the sight of all. And all the devotees, they rushed there. And they were looking for him. They were looking here and looking there. He was nowhere to be seen. He disappeared. They realized that he's actually returned to the spiritual world. So all the devotees, they loved Advaita Acharya so much that they were just crying bitterly. They were rolling in the dust out of feelings of intense separation from him. And the next day everyone took bath in the Ganges. They held a great festival in Advaita Acharya's honor. So today, on Sri Advaita Acharya's appearance day, we have our opportunity to express our gratitude for the Supreme Personality of Godhead who appeared in such a wonderful way to reveal the glories of the holy name and the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, it is said the best way we can worship and please Sri Advaita Acharya is by becoming a pure devotee of the Lord and by honestly and sincerely chanting the holy names of the Lord. And today we have a nice festival, the 12-hour, is it 12 or 8 hour? Huh? 8 hour. 8 hour kirtan. So today we can chant the holy name of the Lord with the pleasure of Advaita Acharya. And also, the best way also we can worship Advaita is to somehow or other, according to our capacity, preach the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu far and wide. And also humbly serve the Lord's devotees. Jai Shri Advaita Acharya Prabhu Ki. So today we're having a special festival on chanting, and there's so many books written about the chanting. We have the books written by Haridas Thakur, the Harinam Chintamani, and it just tells us there that the true quality of a Vaishnava or Vaishnavi is their taste for chanting Krishna's holy name. It is said that we can measure our own advancement in devotional service by how much we're attached to chanting, by how much taste we have for chanting the holy name, and of course how nicely we chant, and of course how purely we chant. It is said just as a runner is known by how they run, or a swimmer is known by how they swim. So a devotee can be judged by how they chant. It means the mark of a true Vaishnava or Vaishnavi is their chanting, which is the means by which they purify their heart and please Krishna. Yes, Lord Chaitanya, he taught us that we should chant the holy name in a humble state of mind, for this actually is the path to pure chanting, and in time leads us to full dependence on Krishna. Humility is said to be the natural result of a devotee's sincere desire to advance in Krishna consciousness and fully surrender one's heart to Krishna. So devotees of Krishna, they always consider themselves fallen because they're aware of the contamination in their hearts and are painfully aware of their incapacity to chant purely. So Lord Chaitanya is teaching us that humility is the key to taking full shelter of the holy name. So although we're very, very tiny souls and very, very fallen, we're not hopeless. Our hope is in the mercy of the holy name of Krishna. And to receive this special mercy, we must place ourselves at the hands of the holy name and give up any sense of being the supreme controller. Give up the false ego. So all we must do is simply to listen carefully to the chanting and just allow the holy name just to bathe our consciousness. To bathe our mind, our intelligence, our false ego in the nectar of Krishna's name. We have no real qualifications. We only have Krishna to depend on as we try best to chant his holy name purely. So it is said, to attract Krishna's causeless mercy, we must first realize the need for the holy name's mercy, that we are dependent on Krishna's independent desire to offer us that mercy. It is said that we are bound by the neck, by the chains of Maya, and our material consciousness is full of false hopes and aversions and anxieties. Therefore, our only hope, our only real hope, is to have full faith in the holy name of Krishna, so we can take shelter of the holy name as we engage ourselves in loving devotional service to Guru and Krishna. Srila Prabhupada said we should chant the holy name and cry like a child cries for its mother. You heard that? It means when we chant, we're in the mood of crying out to Krishna, begging Krishna, please accept me. Please don't lift me. I have fallen into this material world and I'm suffering in different ways due to separation from you. It means we want Krishna to extend his hand to lift us up and bring us close to him, to embrace us and lift us from the material platform to the being on the spiritual platform with him. So while chanting, we are reaching out with our hearts to Krishna, begging for that mercy, begging that he may accept us. My dear Lord, please let me serve you. Please let me love you. begging for the holy name. Lord Gauranga is calling. I have descended just to save you. We see this in the Shikshastika. Other than myself, who else is your friend? I have brought the medicine to destroy the illusion of Maya. Now beg for the holy name and take it. So we must call out sincerely from the heart, from the soul, because we are aware that the need for shelter is as urgent as a fish's need for water. You have to be in that state of mind to really get the mercy of the holy name. It is said if we can learn to beg for the Maha Mantra, we have learned to take shelter of the holy name of Krishna. So begging requires that we approach the holy name without false ego, with complete humility, with very sincere feelings, seeking the holy name shelter. So one should embrace this mood of surrender and thinking oneself very fallen and insignificant, take full shelter of the holy name for Krishna's pleasure. So we're going to do a lot of chanting today. They've got the 8-hour kirtan. It's a great opportunity to really surrender ourselves at the feet of the holy name. Yes. Because Lord Chaitanya here advises us that if we want to receive the wonderful benefits of chanting the holy name, we should avoid chanting with the wrong motivations. Means we should simply try to, we should not be simply trying to attain some personal material benefit from the chanting, whether it's wealth or accumulating piety or counteracting sinful reactions or attaining heavenly planets, whatever. This is considered an offense. Why? Since Krishna is the Supreme Lord, to ask him to fulfill our desires is to treat him as our servant, which is an offense. So when we chant, our mood should be simply, my dear Lordship, Sri Sri Radha and Krishna, please let me serve you. Please let me love you. Is that our mood? Yes. And it is said that we cannot simply capture the holy name simply by vibrating the syllables of the holy name with our tongue. The holy name can only be realized when we approach the holy name with an intense serving mood. The mystical, it is said that the mere physical sound of the holy name is actually not the holy name. The background, there must be our spiritual realization, our devotion, our surrender to Krishna, backing the name. At that time, the holy name may come down by his grace, being attracted by our pure serving nature. That Krishna, he can appear anywhere, in any form, in any place, in any sound. But he'll come and he'll appear on our tongue and in our hearts, being attracted by our service mood. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki. Okay. Shri Advaita Acharya's appearance day ki. Gura Prema